Hi, welcome to coopgaming.info podcast episode number 9. We're almost to 10 episodes,
We're
which will
getting
be
yeah, we're getting up there.
which will be something for us. Now, I feel like our last podcast probably wasn't that exciting because it was just talking about Borderlands. This one should be a lot better, I hope. We're going to be talking about Generation Zero.
Yeah, it's a really cool game.
A really cool game. We've super enjoyed playing it so far. But first, I guess, in tradition of our podcast, well, okay, we don't have any pigeon anecdotes. We didn't bring him down here today in our basement. He never comes down here, so he's always terrified when he's in a new area. That's just kind of how birds are. But we do have a cool anecdote about Bird to share relating to Generation Zero.
oh, what?
What is it? You
Yeah.
forgot. Okay, so we were in our room doing like spring cleaning, throwing crap out, moving furniture around or something.
Oh,
And birds get really worked up when anything changes and when there's like commotion. All types of birds, they just hate it. They kind of go crazy. He hates the vacuum cleaner. We have to put him away every time we vacuum because otherwise he'll just attack the vacuum and try to attack us and try to defend everything in there. So anyway, he was going nuts, but we were in there for a while, so we didn't want to put him in his bird crate or anything. So we were leaving him in there, and he was getting all worked up. And then I think John went to go make a coffee, and
oh,
John brought the coffee in the room, and he set it on the ground, and Bird completely forgot everything that he was worked up about, and he completely forgot everything that he was focused on because this new object of this iced coffee had come into the room, and he rushed up to the iced coffee and started cooing at it, and we fell over laughing because that's exactly how the robots
yeah.
in Generation Zero operate. You throw these flares or any kind of like little piece of crap at the
Or a
ground.
little firework,
Oh
or just
yeah,
anything to distract them, pretty much.
anything to distract them, and the robots are fully distracted by these little new items that enter their Provence or
Yeah,
whatever.
just like their scanners, just
Yeah,
so.
and then we were laughing at Bird. We're like, oh my god, he's just like these robots in Generation Zero. But then thinking about it, I think probably people are like that too.
Yeah, just well, I mean, anyone will be distracted by
Yeah, yeah,
anything.
yeah. By a
Yeah,
firework getting thrown in or something.
yeah,
You're
yeah, and
trying to
it's
beat somebody up, and all of a sudden you're getting hit by a firework.
right. It's over
It's
for.
nothing to mock. It's
Yeah,
nothing to make a
yeah.
mockery of.
Yeah, it's anything that senses something. If it senses
Yeah, yeah.
something new and it's big, it's
Take
gonna take
take
all the
note, at least
attention.
long
Yeah.
enough to figure out what the new thing
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So in Generation Zero, you want to distract them so you can shoot them, but I'm sure that would work on Bird
Oh
too.
yeah. Sad to say. I guess that's well, no, that's not what the stool pigeons were. Oh wait. Okay, so first, why we stopped playing Borderlands. In tradition of our podcast, we usually talk about why we stopped playing the last game we were playing. Borderlands, pretty funny. We made that podcast. We were kind of going hard at the game. We were trying to level up all the characters. We were each going to get a whole suite of characters. We wanted to get further into the further raids. We didn't.
Oh yeah, we never actually even got to like a raid.
That's right. John kept turning up the mayhem level. We were trying to do Mr. Torg's Circle of Slaughter. We were getting deeper into the game. Then John kept messing with the mayhem level. Then we wanted to farm some new weapons for our guys that hadn't turned the mayhem level up yet. They were just like level 57. So we went to do that first Circle of Slaughter, and we did it like several times in a row, and I got one gold gun to drop. It was literally one gold gun, and I think John got like two, and we were like, "Oh my god, something is wrong here," because before there was like, I don't know, like what, 200 drops or something?
Yeah, I mean it went from your screen was just
Filled,
completely filled,
stuffed, yeah.
yeah, filled with gold guns to maybe one or two over the course of an hour. So like
An
over the course
hour
of an
of
hour,
of
yeah.
farming that
Right.
Circle of
So
Slaughter.
it went from too many to even reasonably look at and, think about. So, 200 gold guns drop. And the way Borderlands is, you kind of want to look at each and every one of those things.
Mhm.
But, so we would be playing and we'd actively just be leaving guns on the ground because there were just too many to reasonably
Yeah,
even like
yeah.
look at and filter.
Then suddenly we decided to farm, and what's this? Just nothing dropped. So we kind of, I remember we looked on Reddit at the time,
Yeah,
and
and
there was a
there,
bunch of people saying, like, well, it's just because the co op loot event is over. Get used to it. Like, that's your new
right, but
normal in
yeah,
Borderlands. And we were
there
like,
were,
no way is that normal to play Borderlands for like more than an hour successfully. Like, we were beating the mayhem levels
uh-huh.
or the
Right.
circle
We were
slaughter levels.
beating big bosses
Yeah,
essentially,
yeah,
like
yeah.
gang boss, whatever.
Well, so that was like a huge turnoff. We were trying to get all our different characters to compete at higher mayhem levels, kind of figure out what the best builds were, all that kind of stuff. And then suddenly we couldn't even farm like a single gun. So we kind of weren't sure about playing it. Oh, and then after that they announced like, yes, the loot drops were broken. The
Like
loot drops were
possibly
bugged.
they mentioned that it might be broken, but it didn't seem like there was a fix necessarily forthcoming.
No, no, I think they did. I don't know if
Oh,
you looked
really?
at.
Okay.
Yes, they announced number one, the chests and different parts of the game weren't giving appropriate mayhem level gear to the mayhem level you were at.
Uh-huh.
That was like a known bug. They announced like a lot of like the drops were broken. And anyway, then they announced like a 3-stage plan for fixing the mess as
Oh,
well as
right,
doing a bunch
right.
of other
Yeah,
stuff.
and there were so many bugs related to the Mayhem 2.0
Oh yeah,
revamp,
yeah.
yeah.
Were we
But
crashing a ton too after that?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we
yeah.
started crashing out. But it really shows how hard it is to be like a game creator because just one night of kind of shitty bugs and we were just out of there. Like there's
Oh
so many
yeah,
other
yeah. Well,
games to
one night
play.
of trying to like farm a lot of new gear to level up your guy and having zero
Right,
success.
right. I mean, just imagine like losing your customers forever over kind of a minor patch bug that,
Oh yeah.
and like you don't know what those people are doing, but just like snap your fingers and they're done with your game.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess at the time I thought like, maybe we'll come back and play some more, but now we're probably not going to.
Yeah, we've got so many other games we want to
Yeah,
play.
really
We
cool looking
started
games.
playing Zombie Army
Yeah,
4
yeah.
Dead
Let's talk
Rising.
about that at the end.
Yeah, okay.
So we beat Generation Zero, kind of like main quest now.
Uh-huh.
Oh
Right.
yeah, so let's
We
talk a little bit about the game in general.
Oh yeah, it's it's a weird game because it's kind of like games you've played before and also completely unlike any game you've played before.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're looking at this video, you've seen some of like the gameplay, and my guy just died. And so I mean, what is Generation Zero? It's an open world game. It takes place in historical 1980s Sweden,
Mhm.
something like that. And you kind of get birthed into the world, and it's this huge open world, and
It's
you
just overrun by killer
yeah,
robots,
killer
basically.
robots, and so there's all kinds of these robots armed with guns, and when you first come in the game, you don't know what's like going on,
Yeah.
except that you're completely helpless, and these little robot dogs start just slaughtering you, and there's like nothing you can do about it.
Oh, so on about the plot of this game, I'm not sure we quite at the time we completed it collected and looked at enough of the materials or information or documents presented in the game to figure out what exactly the story is supposed to be. But it seems like the robots were made here, right? We
Well,
discovered
yeah, I
that.
mean these are a lot of spoilers now
Oh
if
yeah,
you
yeah,
care about
yeah.
the game story,
Oh
but
yeah, so
uh,
forget it. No spoilers.
well, essentially, I mean, one thing that's not much of a spoiler because they hint at it from the very beginning is that the robots are somehow of domestic
Oh yeah,
manufacture
domestic
to Sweden.
manufacture.
So, it'd be like if you were in the United States, you kind of come into, I don't know, Phoenix or something, and there are like US Army drones kind of shooting at you. That's like when you walk into the game, that's kind of like what's going on.
Yeah, and it okay, there's so many things to talk about here and I got to look at my notes, but this is the first game we've played where like from the very outset of the game it's clear that the loot is like so crucial and you need it so bad and it's all like so limited and I remember when we first dropped into the game there was only like one gun lying around, and you grabbed the gun, and I was just like
Yeah,
running
yeah,
around like
and
an idiot for the first
right,
like
I was like
10 minutes of the game or
plinking.
something.
I was plinking with this little pistol
Yeah.
at these killer robot dogs, and Genevieve was just running around in circles.
Yeah, and there's no melee in the game, so I was like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, what, hiding? Um, oh yeah, so I'm trying to think of general overall things about the game. It's very Wildlands like in a
Oh,
way.
right, like Ghost Recon Wildlands. It's
Yeah,
in fact, it's like the closest. These two games are like very spiritually similar. Like just the way you would get into trouble and fight with the mobs in the world, and you would kind of slowly whittle them down.
yeah, and then so here's the open world. Maybe you could see it. Well, just we were looking at the map there, but now something else is going on. What did it blank out there? Oh yeah, I
No,
see.
like my guy just died, so it was spawning me back in.
I see. So you can see on the map these little structures, right? And these structures, they're various things. They're farms or
Little,
towns and cities
towns,
and
sheds in the woods.
military
Oh yeah, military
bases,
bases,
any
bunkers.
kind of thing. So when your map is unexplored, you mark them and you can set out and kind of explore them. Then the amount of killer robots you're going to encounter on the walk there or or bicycle ride. I don't know if there were other vehicles in this game, but we only ever ended up getting bicycles. And the amount of killer robots you're gonna encounter when you reach your like destination of this little farm is completely variable, and that's a way that it's really like Wildlands like, because in Wildlands you would set out into the map and like how many of those like those purple cartel guys or
The
whatever,
yeah,
the
the
Unidad
Unidad,
that
yeah.
you would like encounter along your way, and then how like stuffed full that base was going to be and when you arrived there, and what kind of like a plan you needed to make. It's all kind of similar. So you approach these like farms or something and kind of survey the area and make sure you're not walking into a death trap, or kind of try to stealthily take some out.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and they're both games are also similar, I think, in the kind of like vector or the way the battle goes and the way it plays out is highly dependent on the planning you do and like whether you get like the items like destruct or explosives, dynamite, the flares like we were talking about, that distracted bird, like the degree of planning you put into a fight.
And how orderly and well and how orderly you accomplish your plan, and how decent and sensible your plan was to
Right.
begin with.
It makes a big
It
difference
makes a
in
huge
how the fight
difference.
like ends up playing out.
For
Which
for example, you could set these bogus little traps in this game. I call them bogus because I never got good at them. Despite John gave up on them. You wouldn't catch him setting one of these
well,
stupid
I
traps.
know, but I just got tired of carrying all those like 10 or 15
Yes,
pounds
yes.
of
So the game
explosives.
presents you with gas canisters and compressed air canisters and I don't know, a few other types of explosives. So you can throw them all on the ground and then put like a boombox which attracts the robots to the area, and then attempt to shoot the boom boxes to blow up like a large quantity of robots. Like I said, our degrees of success doing that were like not always great.
Right, but it worked
Oh
sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
and it
sure
was
people
like
could get better at it
right,
than I
and
did.
it was nice when you did do it.
Yeah, and then so if you want to do that, then you have to carry around all those super heavy canisters. And like the inventory management was a big part of this game. I feel like I'm getting off track here. The other game that I we wanted to compare it to talk about a little bit that I enjoyed about it is, to me it was a lot like Monster Hunter, because
Oh, right.
every action you take in this game is so slow. It's so slow. And I played with like that hammer in Monster Hunter, so I know some of the other weapons were like a little faster, but it's still the same idea with the items and the actions that you're doing. They take so long to plant the mine, shoot, sprint, move
Right.
that
So, I mean, sorry, I don't mean to
Oh yeah,
interrupt
go
you,
ahead.
but part of it is in order to use the items, the pace of combat is a lot faster than it takes you to like switch to a med kit or
Oh
plant an
yeah,
item.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you have to spend a lot more time using these items than the time it takes for the monsters to actually kill you.
Yes, yes.
So
Just
you
like in
have to
Monster Hunter, where
right.
if you
So
actually had to step away for a moment to heal, like you better watch yourself. You're in terrible peril, and that moment of stepping away cost you like a moment of damage that was really
right,
significant.
but yeah, but you need to like plan out
Yeah, you need
your
to
use
plan.
of the items, and just like in Monster Hunter, the items were real or are I don't know if it's like where are, but they're the items are very scarce, so you have to really think about what you're using,
And what you're gonna
right?
need in the
And
next like
yeah, like if
however many
you
minutes of this particular
yeah,
fight.
yeah, and if you spam like all your med kits away, you're just gonna be out of them, and subsequently, like the combat gets much harder
Yep.
because you've
Or
used
you're just
everything.
you can't recover, take any damage, and you're done.
Yeah.
This game was really challenging. It was tough, but it was cool the way in which it's tough. Oh, another really cool kind of just conceptual thing about this game is when you die, the bosses in the area become more powerful. And the more robots you defeat, the more powerful the bosses in the area become. So that sounds kind of like damning. It's like, oh, well, you're playing really badly and the enemies are becoming a lot more powerful. But, and I was saying like the game is really challenging, but the thing that's like cool about it is you can just sneak through the game and not try to take down these enemies if you
Right, you
wanted.
could kind of blandly go and do quests and
Yeah, you could go
kind
and
of.
do quests. You could just stay and sneak. There's maybe you'll pull up the skill tree or the skills in your gameplay at
Oh,
some
right,
point here.
right. Yeah, it's funny because there's like so many things to talk about this
Yeah, yeah.
game. I feel like it's almost impossible not to get sidetracked.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah,
but
definitely.
so you mentioned the skills. One of the really cool things about this game, I thought, was how in the beginning you spawn into the world with no weapons and you kind of slowly get like crappy weapons like pistol, shotgun, I don't
Oh yeah,
know,
here
whatever.
here they
Oh,
are.
the skill tree's up on the thing right now. But in the beginning, the first time you encounter one of these hunter monsters, and regardless of what weapon you have, it's a low level weapon, and you probably don't have many skills yet, and it's like that thing is just impossible. Like you're not gonna kill it, or
Just a
if
completely deadly
right,
adversary. The first
right,
time we
it's
encountered one of the like tanks or
oh
harvesters or
the yeah the
something,
first time we encountered a tank, we actually probably like each died 20
at
times,
least
despite
20 times. And
right,
I was like,
despite
I
that
don't
we
think we're meant to kill this.
yeah, yeah, we spawn and. So there's like spawn points in this game, and the tank had actually kind of conveniently run up to a spawn
Yeah, to the
point.
safe house.
Right, and it
Yeah.
still killed us just like 20 times each, and we used all of our ammo on it. Like we couldn't kill this
Oh
thing
yeah,
for
we
anything. Like
used our ammo
yeah, like
completely
we
up.
literally used all our ammo, and especially early in the game before you get like the ammo skill, the ammo is super scarce. So
Mhm.
I thought like we're gonna have to stop playing after fighting one tank
Yeah,
because like
yeah,
we're
and just
done.
spend the rest of the game sneaking
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
So in the beginning of the game, these monsters are just way above your head. They're like above your level. And then we actually got past the newbie zone and we were still really bad, and these like higher level monsters came out, like the higher level hunters, all that kind of stuff, and boss monsters, on and on. And it just seemed like the game was gonna be like just like a brick wall in front of you. Like you're never gonna like pass this game. But as you slowly kind of learn the game systems and you like learn the items, you start getting skills.
And you
You
learn where to shoot the
oh right,
monsters,
and
which is
so
another
yeah,
cool
that's
thing about
another
this
really
game.
yeah, it's a special aspect of this game that these robots have like components like fuel tanks and I don't know, weak points in their joints, their little head. They have like the tanks have a sensor camera.
Yeah, so there's just really specific places you have to aim, really
Right.
specific. And if you're not hitting those really specific places, just forget it. You're just
Right.
wasting your ammo.
You're
That's all you're
shooting
doing.
right, you're shooting like low caliber ammo into just like 4-inch thick
Plate
armor.
metal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, in the beginning the game is impossible, but through the use of the game's own systems, you very slowly start to first be able to kind of handle what's being thrown at you. And then by the end of the game, when, we had most of our skills and gold weapons and stuff, we
Mhm.
were actually, and this is like kind of near the very end
Mhm.
mostly, but there came like at least a week where generally we wouldn't die when fighting monsters, and we would even
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes beat tanks and groups of
Without dying.
hunters, not even without dying, but like without taking much damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
That and
just,
that's another way that it was really Wildlands like, and a reason I think we really enjoyed the
oh
game.
right, the same thing happened in Wildlands where as you kind of like learned how the different what like it was equipment in Wildlands,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like the
Uh-huh.
drone, like you
Mhm.
use the drone better,
And it
you
had the
use
explosives and stuff too.
explosives, yeah. You played the game and kind of slowly got to conquer this kind of indomitable thing. This like, the mobs are just
Mhm.
like above your head. So yeah, I mean, it's very few games actually feel that way. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, like if you think of Borderlands, the difficulty curve, like it starts out easy, it stays pretty easy. Unless you get under leveled, then it gets like a little bit
Oh
unreasonably
yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
And then you keep going, and then like at end game, there's this kind of like weird difficulty spike that has something to do with like bosses having huge health pools.
Mhm.
But in a game like Generation Zero or Wildlands was another one, the difficulty kind of starts out like pretty high, like
Mhm.
a point 0.7 out of 1. And it's like a hard game and you're dying and losing constantly. And then through your own kind of mastery and understanding of the game, the difficulty starts to kind of like ramp down. And then ultimately, I feel like in Generation Zero, it kind of like stayed up at that like 60 to 80% difficulty, or like
Mhm.
pretty hard. It was pretty hard most of the time, I'd say.
And along with learning to use the game's tools better as you use them more and more, you just have to be killed by these
Oh
by
yeah,
these
yeah.
stinking robots long
Right.
enough that like there was this one quest that was like it was like look at a windmill. It was literally like look at a windmill. There
Oh
was
yeah,
nothing
and
there was
it
nothing even remotely difficult
right,
about it.
but the field of windmills was populated by like 25 tanks
Oh, it
or
was like 25 hunters. Those are like the big tall standing robots and like at least 7 tanks.
yeah,
Just the
yeah.
enormous quantity.
Right. And this isn't a game where two players, I think, going into like if you saw two players going up against one tank, you'd say like, maybe it's 50-50 that they kill that thing without dying.
Yeah, definitely.
If the tank is isolated. So, you add two tanks, or God forbid, like 5 to 7
Yeah.
tanks, and two players are, they're like helpless. There's nothing
Yeah,
they can
yeah.
do to like win that
And I
battle.
remember we tried to do this dumb windmill quest like one night. We got destroyed by those like 7 tanks, and I thought like that's cool. We'll try to do it tomorrow, and the map will have reloaded, and these tanks will have moved along.
Oh yeah.
Like wrong, wrong. So we tried to do it the next day, and all it was the exact same situation, like 7 tanks and 25 hunters, and there was like
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
safe house where you had to run over a bridge over a
Oh
river
right.
in
So
order
they
to
yeah,
access the
and they'd all
windmills.
be looking at you and you'd be pinned on the
Yeah,
other side
yeah.
of this bridge.
So we decided we were gonna get this quest done, regardless of if it cost us 50 or 70 lives or something. So we resolved to defeat these like 7 or 8 tanks on the other side of this river, and that was the first day when they basically 7 or 8 of them had complete carte blanche to roast us across the river over and over again as many times as they wanted.
Right.
And that was the first day I really like got thoroughly acquainted with every single one of their attacks and the
Oh
timing of
right.
it and the
Yeah. And
noise that happens beforehand
mhm.
and like what everything really meant. and we probably did get killed like 70, 80
Yeah,
times.
yeah. It was crazy how many times we died like on that night, and we probably played for 3 or 4 hours, just like dying every 2 minutes.
Oh
So,
yeah, no, it was dying. You would walk
oh,
out of the
right.
safe house and die.
Sometimes you die before you even like loaded in because they were shooting
Yeah, yeah.
explosives.
Oh, and these things have just extremely long range
Oh yeah, like
on their boom
they can
booms.
kill you from like it's not quite U.S. Army range, given that U.S. Army can probably kill you from the other side of the world, but they can kill you while you can't see them.
Yeah, as long as you've been discovered and their sensors know you're there or
Right,
whatever.
and there'd be
Like,
the
and it.
flying robots that
Oh
they'd
yeah.
pulse, and then you'd get a bomb coming in on your location.
If one player, let's say like I there, am still fighting like a tank and John has died and John comes running out of a safe house running toward me, the tank will just send a missile over to nuke him before he even like kind of reaches
Yeah,
a
yeah.
reasonable combat area.
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned like learning the attacks, and I feel like that's like the mark of a great game, I think. Like remember in Monster Hunter,
Yeah,
you had to like
absolutely.
learn that stupid dragon's
Yeah, if you
attacks,
didn't know when
or
like Legiana or whatever was
yeah,
gonna
right,
slam
like
down, you just weren't gonna
you were just
survive.
gonna eat half your health bar every
Hmm.
10 seconds because you didn't know how to like survive that attack. And they say like that's the key to Dark Souls
Yeah.
and those
Uh
type of
huh.
games. Like remember Remnant, it was a little bit like that,
Uh
like
huh.
learn
Uh
the
huh.
stupid mobs attacks.
Oh yeah, in
So
Remnant we really had to learn those bosses' attacks. Like,
yeah, yeah. So in this game in Generation 0, you have to kind of like learn these all these different attacks, and each tank can come equipped with like a different combination of weapon
mhm,
systems, and some of them had the gas and the stomps, remember
mhm,
that?
mhm.
But it's so cool to kind of like actually need to figure something out about the
Yes,
game.
about what the enemies are doing
Yeah.
and like how to anticipate it and how it all works.
Right. Oh, another really cool thing I thought about Generation Zero was how like the robots work together. Remember
Oh
how
yeah.
like they would kind of the tanks would be a little bit helpless on their own, but if they had just two hunters or a couple dogs, it was
Yeah, I
like
love the way that this game will punish you for being trash and like the tanks go like "Wow, wow," and then they call down a fleet of hunters to destroy
yeah,
you.
and it's
So you need to eliminate them in a rational sequence that's
right, right.
relatively quickly. Otherwise, you might end up fighting like three waves of hunters and
Uh-huh.
dying over and over again
Right, just
because
like
you couldn't.
helplessly
Yeah.
because they were too strong together with like that particular geography.
Yeah, with their
Yeah.
little army that they spawned because you didn't actually kill them quick enough.
Uh-huh.
Did I interrupt you? Were you saying something?
No, no, just uh yeah, that's a cool part of the game. Did we have other
Oh
stuff?
yeah,
Yeah,
we
I
got
mean,
a
I
lot of
feel like
different
we had
notes.
so many notes. Oh wow, look at all this. Wait.
You're just not
Oh,
in
I'm
the
on the wrong
correct part
page.
of this small notebook. Wow, should have prepared a little better here. Oh yeah, another like amusing thing about we when we first turned on this game, we were real astonished at. I guess it's like the first quote like looter shooter that we've played that actually drove us to care about the loot and not be like completely annoyed by it or like overburdened by it or end up like hating it.
Right, right. Well, if you compare this one to Breakpoint, so okay, Generation Zero, it's this weird. It's like made by a seemingly indie studio, or they made the Just Cause games. I've never
Oh
played
yeah, we
those.
wanted to check those out after
Yeah, yeah.
playing
Oh,
this
and
game.
we got their other game called The Hunter, where apparently you just hunt animals.
Yeah, yeah, we were really
Yeah, but
excited to hunt the animals if it was anything like hunting the robots in
yeah,
this game, but maybe it wouldn't
yeah,
be.
yeah. So in this game, Generation Zero, we were just like we looted like maniacs. Like every little house, every bit of structure in the world, every corner of these really intricate, gnarly
And
bunkers.
if you didn't, you would seriously fall in danger of
Right,
having
right.
no ammunition.
Yeah,
Just
but
period. End of
right,
story.
right.
No
But
matter how
we
conservatively you were trying to
yeah,
play
yeah.
with
But
your.
we were crazy about every type of loot, like the flares,
Yeah.
the EMPs, better guns. Like we were just after it like crackheads. Like, we just wanted it no matter what. And then, we played Ghost Recon Breakpoint. We tried to play it a few times, and you know, less than an hour into the game, I was just not even looking at the loot. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it was like we got an hour in, I'd already gotten like 3 or 4 guns that were just pure trash, and they were these kind of marginal like level ups or something.
Mhm.
And then there was like the clothes that worked on the same system,
Mhm.
and I like went through a few ammo pickups or box pickups or whatever. And then you basically have infinite ammo in that game.
Mhm.
So like you'd be picking up ammo that you didn't need. And it took like less than an hour for me to just stop
Not want to look at it at
stop
all.
looting in Breakpoint. But
In
we
this
were
game, you feel like that loot is literally your only salvation and the only chance you have
right,
against
right.
the
Yeah,
enemies.
yeah. And it's like it feels good to want something in a game
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than being irritated at what the game is throwing at you. So, like 100 hours into this, or I don't know, 160 hours. Basically, on day 45 or day 30 of playing this, we were just as crazy for the loot as we were on like day 1 or day 2. With a small caveat that we kind of like started to get too much ammo and we're leaving some loot behind. But
The skills let you. Oh, there's a couple. There's like more carry capacity in there, so you can get that at some point. You can increase the efficacy of your med kits, so you can like get that at some point. You can make it so
right,
more
right.
ammo drops in each ammo box you
Hmm.
loot.
Right, and I mean, in this game in
Are you about
particular,
to set a trap here? I kind
oh
of
yeah,
doubt it.
well, it looks like I
You're
might
just gonna run
in
at
the podcast.
the.
Yeah.
You're just gonna run at that with
But
the gas tank.
in this game, you made oh the getting gun power ups is also a nice way to save ammo because you would
Oh
kill
yeah. Uh huh.
like I think you can get ultimately about a 35% damage boost, which that would cut down on like 20 or 30% of the ammo you
Oh
use to
yeah,
kill
yeah.
them. So yeah, I thought it was kind of, oh look, my guy just died,
Yeah,
but
you
yeah,
died immediately doing that
I
maneuver.
enjoyed the different ways that you could kind of build your skills out to interact with like this other part of the game, which was the loot.
Mhm.
Oh, and like there's this skill called hack, which I ended up not liking too much, but I was still enjoying it at the
I
end.
just chuckled at that. What were you doing there? If you're not watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast, we just watched this footage of John with an explosive gas tank in his hand, run up to the tank, drop the gas tank at the feet of the tank, then the tank stopped on it, exploded and killed John. It was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
It was
Yeah,
great.
that another thing happened where I would try to run under the tank's feet and put landmines, and then the
Oh yeah,
tank
they
would kind
always
of just
explode.
be like,
Yeah,
yeah, the tank would
he
just
goes,
be, yeah,
and you
he's
just
like
explode.
stomping around a little bit, and then he steps on the landmine moments after you've hit it. So like you go boom,
Yeah.
and then the tank has lost like 2% of his health.
Oh, but I
Oh,
was trying to say about the loot here having to do with this note. So like you're leveling up in the game and the game starts giving you more better stuff to deal with the robots. For example, at some point you get a what's that thing? The
the ground up
Grana
Makevar.
Makevar
Oh
called.
yeah,
It's just like a
yeah.
rocket
We
launcher or
learned a
something,
lot of
right?
cool Swedish words
Oh
from this
yeah.
game too. Like gevar means rifle,
Yeah, yeah.
ostensibly.
When we had Wildlands in Spanish, I think. Oh,
Oh yeah, we
Franco
learned.
Tirador, we
Yeah,
learned.
yeah, we learned a lot of cool Spanish words from Wildlands in Spanish.
Oh, but anyway, the game finally gave us this rocket launcher. I was like, oh my God, this thing is so cool. Now shooting these tanks makes sense. You run up behind the tank, you nuke his fuel cell with this huge rocket launcher. He goes down in like 2 shots. This is sweet. I thought, like, this is sick. I'm going to be able to eliminate these tanks from now on. So I'm running around with it. Like see a tank, see another tank, boom, ammo done. And like a lot, and I was like, oh, okay, like this isn't gonna be the long-term solution for this game. The like funny thing is that you get better stuff to deal with the robots, but you'll end up just shooting at the tank with like some
Oh
crappy
right.
pistol at
Yeah,
some
yeah,
point
with
with
like
like
a
your
with a nine
green pistol.
millimeter. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
Just out of like frustration or like not having anything else to do or having
Yeah,
like
yeah.
used up
It,
everything else
I
and
swear,
like
yeah, I would spend many hours in the game, kind of like gleefully shooting the 9 millimeter
yeah,
or
yeah.
32 ACP pistol at
Yeah,
them.
yeah, I
Just
remember I was supposed to be like, I don't have ammo for anything else, just like shooting at this
yeah,
tank
yeah.
with the pistol. It's so dumb. But that was really a lot of fun too.
Oh, it was really fun. Just like because the game has this kind of meaningful economy where you actually kind of
Yeah,
highly value your stupid shit you're finding.
yeah.
You play in these like kind of strange perverse
You
ways
hoard
where
and
yeah,
you,
yeah,
uh,
like I had to deal with all kinds of different hoarding
oh
tendencies.
yeah, yeah,
Then as we were playing, we had like a lot of discussions over like, well, what ammo should we be leaving?
yeah.
And like at some point Genevieve stopped picking up sniper rifle ammo, and I was like, ah, she's a fool. And then like a couple of days later, I was like, my weight's out of control. I gotta stop picking up sniper rifle ammo.
When you're overburdened in this game, you can't sprint
Oh
like in
right, yeah,
Fallout or
and
something. But I would always, I would always feel just like a huge. We would look and I'd have like 1,000 1,000
oh,
rounds on me. So
like
like
more like
sometimes I'd have like
sometimes no
4,000.
sometimes Jenny would be carrying like 12,000 rounds of guns she wasn't using, just kind of like out of
That
carrying.
was after you get enough carry capacity and buff your ammo receiving, you can run into problems like that.
Yeah,
But
you
for the
start.
for this part, I think in this part that's playing here in the video, you were still using blue guns. So this had to
Yeah,
be pretty
so
darn
right,
early on.
this was I guess this was on my birthday because I looked at the date. It was May 15th.
Oh wow.
So we still in this video that's playing, we still had the blue guns. And in Generation 0, the gold guns are just incredible.
Yeah.
They're like better in every way. So,
Kind of a little before we stopped playing, John got
oh, like a 6-star.
it was like a magenta gun.
Yeah,
Is that what it was?
magenta.
Like a
Yeah,
pink
it was
gun?
a 6-star pink, or I guess you could call it magenta. But it was a rocket launcher that shot 2 at a time,
Yeah,
which
so
made
that was
that a
really
lot
cool.
better. Although, it just made it so I never had ammo. But
Yeah.
but it was
Yeah.
fun because you could like if you picked up 15 rocket launcher ammos, you could kind of just like shoot them all off in like 4 seconds, which was kind of nice. But what? Oh, I was gonna say something.
Oh, I wanted to say a note we took here. This was like a survival game, looter shooter or whatever. And we, after playing it a little while, realized how grateful we were that you didn't need to feed and water yourself in
Oh
it.
yeah, right. It's like a survival game, but you're really only surviving on your health. And
Yes,
there's
yes.
no like crap like the stupid that
Yeah,
food and
injecting
water is so
yourself with
irritating.
crap all the time or like
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
like
or
drink or
yeah, taking care
canteen
of
or like my
poison.
God.
Right. It's funny though because like so often we have really condemned those survival games, and then we just played one where that kind of like the aspect of scarcity was done
Was
well, and
done
it was
well, yeah.
enjoyable, and it was just something that we loved. So, it's like I guess
Yeah, you gotta try it really
yeah,
before you know
right,
whether you like it or
right.
not. Oh yeah, okay. So another big topic here. I don't know if we haven't gotten much on the website recently, and maybe we never will again because we're we're pretty busy now with other stuff. But so John, maybe we did talk a little bit on the website about it. Had remapped his controller for to move Sprint off L3. Isn't
Oh
is
yeah,
on?
L3. So L3 on PlayStation
Yeah,
is pressing in your left stick.
yeah.
So on
So John
Xbox
had
that has a different
it has a different
word or
name. Yeah.
description. Yeah.
John had remapped for Star Wars because when you played as one of those saber heroes, well, and just in the game in general, you could do like a sprint attack. Then in this game, okay, so to survive your encounter with one of these robots, you can have an active item uh, that's got him under control. It's different for each different type. Like the tank, the fireworks will kind of bamboozle any robot. The hunter pays attention to the flare, but the tank doesn't pay attention to the flare that much. In fact, I think we've seen John whip a flare at like a ton of tanks in this video. Like they just nuked him right after he did that. Then the tank will get bamboozled by a smoke grenade, but the hunter will not get bamboozled by a smoke grenade. It's all stuff like that. But then the other main way we survive the encounter, and again, like different people get different skills, they might have different play styles, but it was sprint, and then in the skills, what was it was like increase the sprint
Oh,
speed
right. I was
two
gonna,
times or
yeah, I was
something.
gonna say that earlier. So this is more just like a tip for this game,
Yeah,
but there's a skill that increases your sprint and run speed. And so if you're playing this game, you just need to get that one as soon as possible because
we believe. We
yeah.
believe. I mean, there's probably people online playing different ways, but I'm saying that is what allowed us to survive or triumph in this game at all. If you put 2 points in that skill, you run it just like a breakneck
Oh yeah,
pace.
you're like running like Russell Westbrook
Yeah,
out
yeah, you're
there.
running like Russell Westbrook down the basketball court. It is just like insane. And then you can basically shoot a component or whatever and sprint and get away, or when you see the missiles heading
Oh
toward you,
yeah,
you
you
can
can
sprint and get out of
actively
the way.
sprint out of the way of
Yeah,
harm.
the
And
hunters are always jumping through the air to kind of like ground slam
oh,
you.
that ground slam's
Yeah,
incredible. They
yeah,
like drop this huge blade on you, and your guy just crumples.
yeah. And you can sprint to get out of the way if you're super fast and you got 2 points in this skill. But what I'm saying about the controller remapping is that if you're depending on using sprint, basically like it's so fast in this game. It's practically like a gap closer. Like I remember thinking of like the crappy Stam guy ESO gap closer,
Oh
where
yeah,
you would
yeah.
tap that button, you would like
Although
scoot
yeah,
across the
your
screen.
guy kind of slowly, but a lot faster than normal. But he
Yeah,
would scoot
he would
to the other
scoot.
guy.
And that's really what it's like in this game. Then having that on L3 or like the trigger press in,
The stick
the stick
pressing,
press in,
yeah.
you
Well,
can't really control that. You can't
right.
control it. You
Well,
can't
if
know when
you
it's toggled on
right,
and
but
off.
even when you do, it's such a carpal tunnel
It's
thing.
yeah,
Like
it's like it's
once
painful.
when I remapped off that for Star Wars, it was
It
incredible
was
how
incredible,
yeah.
yeah. And then I had to for this game. It's amazing how your whole mental conception of sprint changes when you get it off that terrible. Oh, but in Code Vein it was on
Right, it was on
R1, and
R1,
I
yeah.
loved that.
Right.
Once I got used to it, that was amazing. So I put it on R1 for this game,
Uh-huh.
and then I that was an easy sacrifice because it was like
Uh
change bullet mode or
Oh
something.
yeah, it was change fire
Change
mode.
fire
So if
mode.
you
So
wanted like so
I didn't do
Genevieve
that that
yeah,
often.
but
Not even that many
Genevieve
guns had it in this game.
yeah, yeah. So like switch between automatic and semi-automatic
Yeah,
fire. But Genevieve swapped R1 and L3 on her controller,
yeah.
and on mine, what I did is I additionally mapped L3 to the triangle paddle on my Xbox controller. So the paddle that would be like a redundant triangle instead was L3. So that
Was there any
worked.
triangle command in this game?
Yeah, so well triangle is weapon swap, so you could press triangle once to change from like say your rifle to your rocket launcher,
Hmm.
or you could press it double tap it to switch to your pistol. So I was fine with just using the actual face button, like
Oh
triangle
yeah,
face button.
John
Yeah.
uses John's in a different like universe because he still uses his face buttons on his paddle controller.
Right. Well,
But I abandoned them.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
but
mentally abandoned the concept of them when
right,
I
right.
learned how to
But
use the
you know
paddle
those
controller.
those buttons are there.
Yeah, I know they
And
are there. You can
right,
use
so
them.
it's like this kind of nice redundancy thing where you can change it up a little bit.
But if you have one of those pro controllers or thinking of getting one, that sprint remapping, can't recommend it
Oh
enough.
right,
And then
and it's cool because so I first did that kind of like controller swapperoo or whatever you want to call it on Star Wars Battlefront, and that remap has like worked for every game we've played
The one that you
since.
did,
Like it
yeah.
works great for Generation
Yeah,
Zero.
mine, I'm struggling now in this zombie game.
Oh right, so
I think I'm gonna have to do something different.
right,
Although I
so
love having sprint on R1, it's
oh,
so
but
great.
I keep telling Genevieve that if you just kind of mentally remap R1 to like your
Oh
L3,
yeah, I know, but
but
that's not the
right,
problem in the zombie game. It's because the frequency of use of L3
oh,
and it has to be held in because of the way I swap to set traps and stuff. It's just like it's as bad as sprint. That's the real
oh,
problem with it.
oh, okay, so yeah, in Zombie Army, you have to hold R1 to say prime a grenade to throw
Yeah.
or to do like a mine or to set a mine
Yeah,
or whatever.
exactly. I'm just
So
saying holding.
holding
Yeah.
L3 in that case
That's
is
the
actually kind of
that's the
pain.
worst
Right,
thing.
that's
That's the
like
one
it's
thing you
even
don't want to
worse.
do.
It's the worst carpal tunnel because
Yeah.
now you're holding it in while you might be wanting to move it. So you're like adding pressure to your thumb
Yeah.
while
That's why I'm
moving it.
saying I'll probably have
Right,
to
right.
change it,
But
but
mine in Zombie Army with the triangle paddle being L3, that it works great like that in Zombie Army too. Because in most of these games, triangle is like weapon swap, and you almost never. So the whole reason to get the Pro controller is so that you can press those face buttons without taking your thumb off the right stick. But when you're swapping the weapon, is one time that it's not really necessary for you to like keep aiming.
I hear what you're saying, but
Right.
I just don't like to even touch those face buttons at all anymore. It gives me the
Right. Well,
heebie-jeebies.
you're gonna just have to come up with some other
I know, I'm
solution
gonna have
then.
to come up
Yeah.
with some other
Yeah.
solution. I gotta think about it before you keep playing too.
Right.
Oh wait, let's see. I have a note here. There's nothing sweeter than the sound of the video game's birds mixing with the sound of the
Oh,
birds outside
that.
your own window.
Yeah, yeah, that.
Not an important note at all.
Right. But I mean, I guess just talking about Generation Zero, I thought the sound design and stuff in this game was just amazing. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
this
yeah.
is
This is
one.
another game we played with no music.
Right, we played it with no music in the background, so it's not always like playing music in the background. It's not always a commentary on the game sound. Like I feel like Battlefront 2, we played music, but that game had decent sound, like the
Yeah,
voice lines, the lightsaber
I
sounds.
agree. It was just so
But
much more fun with your own jams in the
yeah,
background.
yeah,
I mean,
right.
all
But it was like
PvP
yeah,
games pretty much are.
it was like a long drawn out PvP game too. But in Generation Zero, the sound really is
It was great.
beautiful. Like
Loved it. I loved
yeah, yeah.
the. It was like spooky.
Yeah,
Very
it was
like
like yeah, you
spooky.
could say it was like atmospheric maybe, but yeah, like
They would try to terrify you. I
yeah,
feel like when
yeah,
the
and
robots
the
had their
robots,
sights on you and
yeah,
stuff.
the robots made such a great coups and they
Yeah,
call to each
yeah.
other and you'd hear them like stomping in the countryside. Anyway, it's just this. It was it. The game had beautiful sound, and I feel like this is one game where you'd kind of be doing a disservice by
Playing music
blasting
over it or
music.
something.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And a disservice to yourself because you wouldn't be getting your like audio notifications. Not that
Right.
we
Right.
cared about that in ESO and some of the
Oh
other
yeah,
games we
yeah.
played
Right.
music
I
over.
mean, in like ESO, the sound was so bad that
Yeah.
like there were probably like early Nintendo games that had nicer sound.
I have a weird note here. You're in danger when you're not watching what the enemy is doing.
Oh
And
right,
you're in
right.
danger when you are watching what the enemy is doing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was such a cool part of this game. I thought where I mean, maybe like a lot of shooters or all shooters are like this, but you can kind of be spending your time in the game where all you're doing is like taking shots and taking bullets. And if you don't kind of like know what's going on, you could kind of just like run around like a chicken until something puts you down.
What do you mean you can take
Like, okay, in a game, you're usually like doing something.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
shooting things, you're like jumping on
Yeah.
platforms, you're picking up items.
Yeah.
So, not all games are like this, but this is one that is like this. One thing that you could be doing in the game is just running around doing a whole lot of nothing, getting killed
Yeah.
without like doing any action. So, there's like this whole level of like thought and intentionality you have to actually be like making successful actions in the game. And then just relating to the note you had, it's like
I'm trying
in
to
this game,
think
well,
specifically what
okay, but
exactly.
in this game in particular, the enemies are highly lethal and they can kill you without you being able to see them. But the thing is that in this game you have to look at them to be able to shoot them. So if you are looking at that enemy and he's like looking at you, that means you're kind of like dead or you're in more
Yes.
danger. If you're like
Yes.
looking at him over an open field and he sees you, that means like you're about to die
Mhm.
regardless of anything you're doing. But I'm just saying that there's something really enjoyable in games like this, and Battlefront was one of them too. Like remember in Battlefront you could be playing Supremacy or whatever, and like you just be spending long periods of time getting shot at
Mhm.
without ever like shooting back at the
Mhm.
enemy. And that was because like the enemy was watching the like sight lines better than you, or they were shooting you from behind, or they were like flanking you.
Mhm.
So it was like possible that in your playing of the game, like all you were doing was being a target.
Mhm.
And that has to do with kind of like the whole like hunting and stalking aspect of the game and like knowing what's going on. And there's like lots of games that are not like that. Like it's very rare in Borderlands that you're kind of spending time not
Oh
shooting
yeah, yeah.
because there's nothing kind of like, oh, and Wildlands is like that too. Remember how like we'd always laugh playing Wildlands sometimes because you like get into a base and all you do is just get surrounded and
Yeah.
shot at thousands of
Yeah.
times. Like you can play the game and whatever you're doing is kind of not going well. So all you're doing is getting shot at.
Uh-huh.
I guess
Uh-huh.
that's like my only point. But Generation Zero is one of those games where you can kind of move yourself and play in such a way that like all you're doing is getting shot by robots. You're like
Mhm.
spending the whole night just getting shot and like being a moving target or a stationary target.
Quick note about the loot here and the like scarcity of it. Well, we neither of us ever ended up buying that med pack perk, but you quickly start to make a hierarchy of when you'll like kind of eat a med pack or not. It's
Oh
like
right,
starting with
right.
number 1, am I by a safe house? Like
Yeah.
if yes, I will not eat med pack. And then like what
Oh
else was
right.
in
Yeah,
there?
there I feel like it was almost a hack in this game when I decided not to eat med packs near safe houses and
Yeah,
like take
yeah.
a death instead.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and we'd sometimes like be low on health. So one of the kind of weird or cool things about this game is your health never regenerates unless you eat a med pack or you die.
Mhm.
So, if you fought like one of those little doggies and lost 80% of your health, and you had no med packs, there'd be like no way to get that health back. So you could kind of throw
Yeah,
yourself
kill
off a
yourself to
cliff.
get it back.
Yeah, yeah.
But that should give you an idea how scarce the loot is when you start making up like rules for yourself to kind of deal with it.
Yep.
Oh, you can't change your ammo type except in the menu. I don't know why we cared about that. Oh, you wanted to talk about the big tank artillery.
The what?
Big tank artillery. I don't know, just you liked it or something.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it was just cool. I don't know what we were thinking when we made that note, but it's just it's so cool. First of all, the tank artillery. I feel like the tank artillery would just blow everything up where you were. So if you were kind of like in a building and there were like 6 hunters outside and the tank was firing off at you, they would like shoot each other. Like the tank explosives would actually blow the hunters up and the dogs up.
Oh,
And
you think so?
also, yeah, yeah.
All
So
right.
also, I guess you never noticed, but remember like the sticky flare?
Yeah.
So in this game, the robots they shoot at flares. Like I guess it overloads their sensors, or it doesn't matter why, but they shoot at the flares. So there's these sticky flares, and if you put the sticky flare, say on a tank, then like all the 6 hunters around and the other tank will shoot at that sticky flare and damage the tank. So like the robots had friendly fire.
Yeah, yeah, that was
And
pretty
so
cool
like you
too.
could hack them, and like the dog would shoot at the other dog, and then all the dogs would work together to kill the hacked dog, and like those were kind of like cool things that would happen.
So we're finishing up here. Got another couple quick notes. One really cool thing about this game, like in Ghost Recon, you or in Wildlands, I don't know about in Breakpoint, but you'd sneak around a lot, and you would sneak around, and you might avoid being sighted by an enemy guard, yada yada. But the game kind of gave you no credit for that. Then this game gives you escaped combat, and it'll give you a little like XP for sneaking out of a scenario in which like you could have fought or could have been killed. It will give you a little credit for getting away, which was like a kind of cool thing that I feel like more stealth games should kind of include. Where
Yeah, yeah, that was a pretty cool part. I mean, just like you got some amount of credit for
yeah,
getting away from the
getting away
robots,
alive
and
from the
yeah,
encounter.
yeah.
And then let's see. Just that I think we talked a lot about how some games are like a shooting gallery or like whack-a-mole.
Oh right, like that I I feel like that's such a huge distinction in these games, where part of what I feel made Generation Zero so like fun and dynamic is, and you'll notice in this podcast sometimes you'll see me coming up behind a robot, but if you want to say one thing about this game, you could say that the positioning and your movement is very crucial, and it's like it happens dynamically, where if you shoot at the robots and then your teammate is coming up behind them, they won't know your teammate is there, and
Mhm.
they'll kind of get shot in the back. And conversely, you can get shot in the back by the robots. So, if you just put yourself in the middle of a meadow, you're just going to like die, right? Whereas if you use the little obstructions in the buildings and hide behind them, and like once I got the better sprint, I started to really enjoy fighting in the cities and like the warehouses and stuff, because you could use all the different entrances and kind of like pop up behind a robot and unload a full clip, and then kind of like sprint to the other side of the house or the
Yeah, yeah,
warehouse.
absolutely. And like I
Right.
think in the video here you just saw John kind of sprint behind a house and get blasted anyway. The cover was cool because it wasn't like what was that like Division 2 we were
Oh,
playing
like
where it was
Division
like if
2,
behind cover
like
damage
yeah,
equals 0.
invulnerable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So like,
invulnerable.
right, so if you go behind some cover and that robot is like shooting a huge missile barrage at you, and it doesn't hit the front of the house but rather lands kind of near you, it's just
Yeah,
going to splash and kill
and
you.
kill you, yeah.
Right. Oh, and
And then
some
you could
robots.
crawl real deep in a house, and we would kind of laugh and say like, "Oh, these Swedish houses are really sturdy,"
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the whole house would be like shaking off its foundations, but like you'd be okay deep in the bathroom. But God forbid you stand in a little porch like this. Like
Uh-huh.
he
Right. Or
he
stand
was
in like the sunroom or
yeah, the
mud room.
sunroom
The
or
mud
mud
room
room
was
or
really
whatever it is,
dangerous.
and you were gonna just be killed. They could shoot through the windows. They could send everything into that sunroom to kind of blow you up.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Oh,
oh, but anyway, sorry, just to return to that point. In a lot of games, you kind of like are on a rail, and you go through these rooms where there's like stationed
yeah,
enemies, and
yeah.
you kind of have to like slowly pick them off and whittle them down.
Yeah, like
So,
Division. I feel like
right.
even Borderlands is like that in a way where it's like whack-a-mole. Like they pop up,
Right,
you
like
whack
he
'em
he pops
down.
up and you're like shooting at them. So, just your positioning and movement, and j- it's
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 more like
such
you
like a
could be on
touch.
a monorail, like you're
Yeah,
talking
right,
about. Like you
right.
could be on a little train car slowly moving
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, and like now like you're in this scene and you're shooting the bullets, and then you're in the
Yeah.
next scene. So, every game has like different amounts of that, but there's this like hidden fun factor or something, where you're kind of like doing something that's exciting and that you have to kind of like be on your toes for, versus you're doing something that is like a little
Kind of
bit,
engineered for you
yeah,
in a way.
yeah, or what's the word, like monotone.
Like
or
a ride at the circus.
Yeah, right. Like you're getting this experience that they put together for you
Yeah.
versus like, and I guess like that's really what makes Generation Zero and Wildlands so like fun or interesting is that any particular fight you have is always, it could be different or it could end differently
Mhm. Mhm.
or like
And
you
it could
might,
play out
right,
differently.
and like whether you win or lose is this whole like, it's like a swashbuckling thing, like either you kind of like were on top of the fight and you conquered it or else you kind of just got ground up.
You slipped below the waves. Okay, so last thing we're going to talk about here. I feel like it's already been too long for my taste, but this game was filled with bugs, but they were fun bugs. We loved them.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
so much diversity of bugs in this game. I will say I don't think we blue screened very often though.
It was
It
rare.
happens
It was like
sometimes,
once per 3 days.
but it was rare.
Yeah, yeah.
The rest of the bugs very lovable. For example, chair hovering above loot box. That was a
Oh,
cute one.
right. The loot boxes had a little bit of like physics or something, and
Yeah.
then sometimes like a piece of junk would be on top of them,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the loot box would like shoot it away or kinda.
Rarely, very occasionally, like one of us would die or something, and then the other one would be actively engaged with a huge robot on the screen, on their screen, who was taking damage and dishing out damage, who very much existed, and that same
Oh,
robot
right.
would not exist on the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
player's screen. I don't know if we took video of it, but one time John was like fighting a hunter, and I was just running around. There was nothing on my screen where that hunter was. I was just running around where that hunter was, and there was just like nothing there. But the hunter was like killing John. It was a real enemy.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. Like,
There'd be cool stuff like, oh, we'd get stuck in the world and have to quit sometimes.
oh
That's like
yeah,
a,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
that was another thing we wanted to talk about with the looting. You're so desperate for the loot, then
Oh,
the
yeah.
characters really like clip on each other in this game. So like if you're looting one of those semi shipping containers and John's in there like opening an ammo crate, like I gotta shove him out of the way in order to
Yeah,
get to it
yeah.
myself. So we would always be kind of like trying to smash each other out of the way to compete over like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same
And
little
if you're
crappy
going
med
for the
pack.
same like loot, little piece of loot, you would have to actually push each other out of the way
Oh
to
yeah,
get it.
yeah. And then if
Oh,
like let's
remember
say
that?
John
Yeah.
is in crouch and my little guy's pushing him out of the way, you can get like kind of stuck in a little piece of
Yeah,
crap in
or
the
like
world.
in a corner or
Yeah.
behind some. Oh, but remember, this was one of like the funniest and most irritating bugs, but there'd be those med kits laying around the world and they'd be kind of like on top of a stove where it was very hard
Oh
to
yeah.
actually click on them.
It was very difficult. I took a video of that too, I should post, but I think we turned our field of view back in this game. That's what I
Right,
kept
right,
saying about
yeah.
that. I think we may have
Right,
had
I think,
difficulty
yeah.
picking up some
Mhm.
items because we turned our look at that trashy shooting. Oh my
Yeah,
god, I
yeah.
wasn't killing it either. uh yeah, that it might be because of that. Kind of love turning the field of view back in a lot of
Right,
these
right.
games.
But oh, just one last thing I also want to say is we just died like hundreds of times in this one,
Yeah, yeah.
and I feel like, oh, I'm just so astonished because there's like an option to play it hardcore where dying is like forever. And I didn't actually look it up, but I wanted to before this. But I really wanted to see, first of all, if anyone had ever beat the game on
Uh-huh.
hardcore
Uh-huh.
mode. And second of
How
all,
they played. Like,
right, right.
yeah.
I'm just so curious to see how far people got because there are certain missions like that windmill one, for instance, where you're not gonna sneak through that field. I
No,
don't
and
think.
you can't like I was thinking if you're playing on hardcore, you could hoard those EMPs. Like the EMP will just disable
Oh, right.
a-
So
any
the
sized
idea
robot.
being that you would
You,
disable it and
that
run
you would
away.
sneak all the time, and if like you somehow accidentally, if a robot saw you, would immediately EMP it. But yeah, that doesn't like make sense because like that windmill mission, like you're talking about, you can't
Right,
EMP
right.
7 tanks and like 25
Yeah,
hunters. You
right.
can't.
You couldn't really do that. I mean, you would maybe be able to run away, but so each of
No,
us,
we
well,
tried to sneak in.
well,
Yeah, I
I
don't
know,
know,
but
but I'm
a
curious
better
about it too.
player
We
than
should have
us
looked
might
it
have
up.
been able to sneak a little better. But my only point is that we each died way more than 500 times, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, and so and like a lot of those times, it was just kind of like playing like a kid, where
Yeah, but for
you
the
run
whole
out and die.
first 30% of the game, we didn't like have the foggiest what was going on either about like the components of the
Oh,
robots. Like,
right, right. But anyway, my only point is I was trying to think of like how many of those deaths could have been prevented by better play.
all of
And
them.
well,
I don't.
no, no, yeah, I'm saying though that I felt like it was something like based on the situations we were in, and if we were generally trying to avoid dangerous situations, that probably 95% of those deaths that we had were avoidable, right?
Mhm.
But that still leaves 5%
Mhm.
where I feel like we were kind of in a place and the monsters started coming and there was like nowhere to hide.
Yes, which
Anyway, all I'm
let me
saying.
say on that note real fast. Sometimes you would load into a safe house and there would be a tank and a pack of monsters around
Right,
it.
but
Like
that,
even that
yeah,
situation, I
right,
guess you could
right.
just port to another safe house.
Well, not if you're in combat.
Oh yeah, not if you're in
Right,
combat.
right.
Well, yeah.
So anyway, all I'm saying is I feel like at least 5% of our deaths were such that there was really like nothing we could have done for whatever reason, like other than just maybe not playing in that part of the game.
Especially
But
the fall damage deaths.
oh,
In
right,
on
right.
this
But yeah, I'm just saying that this more than any other game we've played, like I can see how you avoid dying in Path of Exile. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
and then like, oh, accidents happen with like the exploding corpse or whatever. But in this game, it's so often that the odds are just so stacked against you,
Mhm.
and the robots are really fast, and they'll like shoot missiles at you from, like half a kilometer
Mhm.
away or something.
Mhm.
So I just felt like the idea of playing this game hardcore was like way more hardcore than any other game we've played. Like,
Absolutely, I
maybe
agree with that.
I suppose it seemed about as unlikely that people would win Ghost Recon Wildlands on hardcore. Like, remember they had that ghost mode
I
where
think
it
this
was permadeath.
I think this is far more unlikely than
Right,
Wildlands.
right. I was gonna say,
Wildlands, I feel like you had a ton more control.
yeah, but also in Wildlands, like you could sneak and one shot head kill everything.
Yeah. Mhm.
So in this game,
And you could
you
just run from the Unidad if they like assaulted you
right,
on the highway.
right,
You could just get away from them.
right. But in this game, you absolutely can't one shot or even one clip kill a lot of things. Like the
Yeah.
hunters, like you can't one clip kill them with even a great assault rifle. Like even if you hit their components. So just the battle in this game is so stacked against like the player character. It's just so hard for me to imagine someone beating this whole game
Yeah,
on
yeah, we should look it
hardcore.
up. We
Yeah,
should have
yeah.
looked it up, but
Yeah, I wanted to, but
it's amazing we even managed to do this today anyway. Oh, wait, so I wanted to say we loved this game. We were so excited we just wanted to play it again right away. I think we did my quests, like John was getting invited to my game. So
uh-huh.
we were really excited just to go in and do it all again on John's game, but we decided we'll replay it a little bit later. Maybe we'll learn even more
Right.
about it.
Mhm.
But really we had such a good time that we were half tempted
Yeah,
just to
yeah. And
instantly turn the game on
right.
again
Yeah,
right
this
after we
is
beat it.
one of those where like 6 months down the line or a year, if
I'm
they
already really looking forward to
yeah, right.
playing it.
But oh, I was gonna say that if a DLC or something like that came out,
Oh
I
yeah,
would
yeah.
just be right on top of it, and I'd like instantly give them our money
Yeah, yeah,
just to be able to
definitely.
play it. Yeah.
Really loved it. Maybe enjoyed it as much as Wildlands, but it was over faster than Wildlands. I mean, it's a
Right.
smaller
Right.
game.
Uh huh.
So what are we playing now? Zombie Dead.
It's called Zombie Army for Dead or Zombie something Dead Army 4.
Yeah, yeah,
It's made by the guys who made that Sniper Elite game.
yeah.
Who
And we tried Sniper Elite and kind of
right?
like really liked it. Thought it was such like a clean, smooth game, but we never got too deep into it.
Yeah,
Maybe
right.
because
Yeah,
we
we never.
weren't elite snipers enough. It's
we just never got too
yeah, we
into
never
it.
got too
Yeah.
into it, and it's almost like that game is so like clean and smooth of a shooter sniper game that it almost like lacks a little excitement. I would say maybe
Right,
that's why
right.
we didn't.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I feel it a little bit in the zombie army game too, where I don't know enough about this game maker, but there's just like something a little off. I don't know, like in Sniper Elite, there were those quests we could do, and then it was like hard to access how to do them exactly, or like why we should do them, or what was going on. Like there's just some level of like engagement missing or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, I agree, but I don't know. We've been enjoying the zombie game.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if I agree that something seems a little off about it. It has a lot of actions for a shooter. It's got melee moves and stuff in it too. But yeah, I don't know. We've been enjoying it so far, so maybe
Yeah.
if we keep playing it, that'll be our next podcast.
Yeah, hopefully. Assuming we do another
All
one.
right. Well, thanks for sticking with us. If
Yep.
you listen this far, go check out that game. I hope you guys like it as much as we did.
Yeah, it's also regularly on sale. I think we got it on sale. So, I mean, usually if you like watch the PlayStation sales, you can get almost any PlayStation game that's not brand new for like at least half off, if not a lot more. So,
Oh, and I remembered the last thing I wanted to say. We have not been playing any PC computer games.
oh right.
Old habits die hard, but also we've been so busy with other stuff that we were playing. Yeah, I don't know. Just haven't played
Oh,
nothing
right.
much
Well, we
to us.
flamed out of Baldur's
We
Gate
flamed
too.
out of Baldur's
Right.
Gate.
Genevieve couldn't deal with it for the most part.
We were in the
we
first
yeah,
dungeon.
we didn't even get past the first
We didn't even get
dungeon.
past the first dungeon. We
first
played
level
for
of the
3
first
days. I
dungeon.
mean, 3 play sessions. And then when I learned that getting out of the first dungeon required the careful looting and looking at
Right,
of
you had to
every
look
single little
right,
piece of
and
crap
there's no
in that
indications
dungeon,
really of what you
what
can
to do
loot.
in order
Yeah.
to progress or move
Right.
forward.
Well, you have to like sit there and read it all very closely. Like it
Yes.
does tell you
Yes.
what to do,
Yes.
but you have to have, I guess, a lot more patience than us.
Well, I just don't like a game where a big action required of me is just physically looking for crap. Like,
Right, right. And it seemed like there was a lot more of that to come too.
yeah, a lot more of that to come.
Yeah. So I don't
So
know.
yeah,
But
maybe we'll.
yeah, we were thinking, or I mean, I was thinking, I guess, of getting that Xbox PC Game Pass. And there's all these Xbox games that we've never even heard of that
Oh,
we
yeah.
could kind of play on computer, I guess, without like having to buy an Xbox. So that seemed kind of appealing.
Well, so yeah, summing up again, thanks a lot. If you
Yep.
listened all the way through, let us know what you think. Check out the game. I don't know if we're gonna have anything on the website. John would like to put up
Yeah,
a review.
I want to write a review of it just so there'd be like a review of it.
And maybe he will. I will say I do 99.99% of the brunt work and writing for all of our reviews. So maybe if John does it, it'll get done because I'm too busy with other stuff right now. But
Yep.
I don't know. Check back sometime.
Yeah, maybe there'll be something up. So yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.